Boom. What is up? Lone Chemist Podcast, number 34. My name is Johnny. I'm the Lone Chemist. I'm a Taurus. I like long walks on the beach and mimosas. And I have a good guest today. So I have Jonathan from the channel called Films&Stuff. How's it going, man?
Going good.
Just to praise you a little bit before we start. Been a fan for quite some time. We only really started interacting like on Twitter and stuff recently, but yeah, I'm impressed with the content, man. You really do make awesome stuff, and also I'm very jealous that your channel is so good and mine is like just getting off the ground. So
You have to hustle, man. I always like to ask this, but what was the introductory video you saw?
honestly, I forget. I think it may have been the Thor one. I want to say,
Okay.
yeah, it may have been that one, or actually, I don't remember, to be honest with you. But I mean, honestly, like I instantly latched onto your content. Where like I don't even remember the first one I saw. I just binged your content over a day because I saw it. I'm like, all right, sweet. This guy knows what the fuck he's talking about. He's actually not terrible to listen to. So, but
That's a good thing. When the voice is like so much of the work goes into just the voice and just making sure you sound good in front of the microphone.
Dude, my Thanos video, people chirp me because I have a huge voice crack in my video, and everyone's like, good video, but like F for the voice crack, and then like it's got like 1,000 likes. I'm like, oh, sad.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah.
It does.
The smallest audio detail will always get the most comments, I swear.
Yeah, but
That's especially mispronunciations, which do happen. I'm not an English major, so I'll whiff on those a couple of times, and then that's always funny when that happens. You just get this bombardment of that's not how it's pronounced.
Yeah.
So that's always funny.
You can't win. And like, dude, like, okay, so you got to keep in mind, like, I had 300 subs about like 4 or 5 months ago or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I never expected that Thanos video to actually be somewhat popular. And so like, it has so many errors where like I cringe now because I'm so much of a better editor now than I was back then. And so like,
the subs force you to kind of get more disciplined and get more like
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever, it's all. I'll take the occasional insult. It's not a big deal. I'm
No.
pretty self-deprecating because I'm a chemist and my life sucks, so it's okay.
I can't imagine the lab life.
It's yeah, don't imagine it. It's fine. I'll just tell you all about it. It's like I was talking to my friends from grad school a couple days ago. So I'm a PhD student in chemistry, and we were saying grad school is the one place you go to suck at the one thing you're good at, which is so true.
So is it like more like just everyone there's a bit better than you kind of thing of like, you used to be the best of the class or the second, now you're like in just a field of like,
I mean,
it just gets so much harder?
I don't know about that. Basically, so I don't know if you know how like a PhD in chemistry works. Basically, it's all research. Basically, after your first year, it's not really many classes or anything like that. So there is that kind of imposter syndrome that kind of comes along with it.
But also, I imagine that like for your PhD, you have to go into new territory, right? You have to.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and also like the imposter syndrome also goes in that way too. But the thing I was more talking about is like your advisor will never, ever, ever, ever be pleased no matter what you do or how you do it or how well you do things. So like your ego is just always put in the shitter, and yeah, it's a cruel mistress, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But you are in Canada, so you're a young guy. How old are you?
I'm 22, about to turn 23 next month.
Nice.
And actually, like right now, it's good to be in Canada because, especially Toronto, I'm in that area, and the Raptors are in the finals, first time ever, and that's just the fever in the city. I was in Toronto after one of the games, and it's just nuts. Everyone's rooting for them to win. It's like to be in a city and like the playoffs and the biggest sport in the country, like not in the country, but like in North America, it's just when that hits, it's so cool to be in there. So I won't buy tickets for those games because they're 4,000, 5,000.
Yeah,
it's insane. Money I do not have.
Yeah, no, I hear you in that one. But like I will agree that like when you have like a big city that has like a team that's either been like an underdog or like a complete Cinderella story, like to see them in the finals, the city has like an energy that's completely electric. Like it's pretty awesome. Yeah. That happened when, well, I mean, not to the same degree, but like when I was in college, our team won the entire hockey championship, and you could literally hear the vibrations from the center of the city, like all the way back on our campus and shit. It was awesome. Yeah, pretty good. But anyway, so like I bring up the fact that you're young because like you have a pretty prolific channel for when did you start YouTube? Around when?
I was 19 when I started it, so that was March of 2016, I want to say.
Got it. And just stemming from that, what really served as your inspiration to get into YouTube film critique, or I guess you can call them video essays, and I guess even more than that, do you have a background in film editing and movie making, or is it just kind of a hobby for you?
I made like home movies, like fun movies as a kid and growing up and that, and like for school projects, I would always do those. But almost all the video editing skills I learned on the fly.
Yeah.
But 3 years of video editing do go a long way. But for filmmaking, like I took a lot of definitely in university, I took a lot of classes. It's just like I read so many reviews when I was younger. I remember discovering Roger Ebert and like I want to say when I was 16, 15, and just I would read through his entire catalog and like his like great movies. And once you discover writers and like how they approached film, and then especially the big breakout was on YouTube. It was Tony Joe and his Everframe painting series. That was game changing. And to see that and to see film criticism use film language to convey points about the film was so interesting to me that I kind of instantly latched onto it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was experimentation, and then I found your groove and you find your specialty in YouTube, and that's kind of how it works. Is that you can't just do whatever random video you want to do. You have to find your own scene. You have to find your voice that way, and then from there, just kind of one project at a time, kind of thing. And that takes you 3 years, and then you realize like what happened.
Yeah, I'm coming up on a year of my channel being live, and so have I kind of slow, prodigious growth, but like I mean, only recently I've actually
14,000 in a year is really good. Better than most. 14,000.
Oh yeah,
14,000 a year is better than most.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, and also like the thing that kind of sucks like for me is like so I imagine like so you're a college graduate now, right?
No, I didn't. I actually dropped out to do like other stuff, and this was my side project. Yeah, I was doing engineering, and I didn't like it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know that. Okay. So essentially, like what kind of caused you to want to I guess you're probably doing YouTube full time. I imagine
Right. Yeah, I kind of go in and out of that when I have sponsorships. I do.
yeah, exactly. So how is the I guess the occasional part-time / full-time YouTube gig like how is it actually like using that as like both your creative outlet and also your monetary income? Is it like does it get like kind of
it gets messy and more it's like you're not getting as much money nearly as much as if you're doing other work gigs and that.
Yeah.
But networking and the kind of online profile, like putting this on your resume, is better than almost anything I've done in my entire career. It is just something that sticks out. That is, like you can do. I've gone from like little marketing little gigs and things like that of just you really apply that, and even like especially like a lot of my ads have gotten me a lot of help. Like I could do gotten even approached to help like with commercials and that is like with things like that sort of editing. And I'm really kind of video editing is kind of I think becoming my sphere. Is that kind of I didn't think of it as a profession until I got into it, and it's really fun to just play with things.
Yeah.
In the editing bay, that's a real fun for me. Is the kind of you get that long grueling part of writing, but then the editing bay is worth it because everything comes together.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting better video editing now. I'm not nearly as good as like some of you guys are, but can we agree that the most frustrating pedantic day is voiceover day?
Oh, 100%. It's that is the worst. And it takes me longer because I go through like first I have to I go like probably I've gotten better. I used to do line by line. Now I do paragraph by paragraph. Like I just learned how to do it. And then I go in and you have to compress the audio. You have to go through like your voice will make weird cracks that you don't know it makes until you're going through the audio. And you have to like eliminate those and all that stuff. And that's a tedious, like they can take a day sometimes of just pure, like a full 9-hour workday for me of just getting the audio done.
Yeah.
And that's so
it is demoralizing.
Yeah. is punishing.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I'm one of those people like, so like I took 10 years of voice lessons. Like I'm classically trained. So like I sang a lot as a kid. So I'm used to hearing my own voice, but I hate hearing my own voice, and hearing it over and over and over and over again makes me want to kill myself.
Yeah. I've gotten better. I used to find my voice weird, but honestly, 3 years doing this, you actually get rather used to it rather quickly.
Yeah.
At least I found that. And I wasn't classically trained, but I was a singer growing up. I did a lot of acting. Improv was like my specialty. I love improv.
Really?
So I'm very much used to that outgoing, kind of commit to it, play with your voice and that. I wish I would do that more in some of my videos of just, actually, because mine are far more academic than they are sort of like other YouTube videos where they're more having fun with it. They're more skit based or whatever, and I've always wanted to do that and more explore the voice range, and I could do characters and that, but I've mastered the video essay smooth sort of voice.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna be the Captain Christian monotone yet soothing voice.
I think I have more vocal range. He's
you
far
definitely
more
do. You definitely do.
Yeah.
I was making a meme, but
Oh no, I know. And I don't do the nerd writer very long pauses. Although I think I used to do those, or I try to keep more.
Yeah.
The spacing. I used to go. Actually, one thing I used to really aggressively put cut the spaces in my speech. If you look at my earlier videos, they're paced way too fast.
Yeah.
So I think like a 6.5 minute video back in the day would be like 9 minutes now, purely just from how I spaced the words. And I've gotten better at just actually letting those sentences breathe and letting and that was a lesson in me in editing. Like, so much of editing, you think, oh, just cut. And then, the real editing's more about rhythm. And then you have to take that speech, take all that, everything you've said, and you have to find, I whether set it to music or the footage I'm talking about or some graphic I've designed. You kind of find that rhythm in there, and that's a lot of the fun of making videos. I like my videos to flow. I think it's one of my strongest suits. Is because I was also a music guy, so I'm very good at like finding that rhythm in a piece and letting that carry.
Nice. What'd you play for music? I'm asking.
Oh, I was drums. Pure.
Oh, drums. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was self-taught in drums. I was never really any good. I have naturally a pretty decent rhythm, so like I kind of picked it up pretty quickly. But I'm more of a guitar guy and singing guy. Like drumming, I'm look pretty stupid behind the kit because I'm like a tall idiot. But yeah. So like I guess so I know you've been doing it for about 3 years now. Do you remember like the actual event that really like wanted you to like made you want to make video essays, at least like for like a huge hobby? Like I know you said every frame painting, but like was there a point where like
it was I know what you it was my second big video. I did a couple of mini reviews and actually that's why I liked doing it. It was just like I used to do more review style videos, and then I did my second big essay project was the Spider-Man 2 one, and that blew up and like overnight. And that was kind of that, oh, this is possible. And even if it's not like the best job or whatever, like you can get a bit of that wide reach, bit of that, trying to find the arguments that people weren't making. Like I always come from an approach of, I remember that when I did that one, Spider-Man 2, that was like right when Civil War came out, and I felt like the Marvel craze had fully taken over. I was like, I want to take a step back and look at the movies that paved the way here. And it was always like, what are the conversations people aren't having, and put those out there.
Yeah.
For me, it's like for me, the worst part is like, I want to cover this in-depth idea, and then you look and someone else has already done that and go, okay, that was a week of work. That's happened a couple times of like, oh, well, somebody beat me to it. Or, so I always like to have an approach that no one's done before, or like something that I haven't seen else on the internet.
Yeah, no, I feel that for sure. And like there are some ways where like you can't really get away from that kind of stuff because a lot of like, it becomes parallel thinking at a certain point. But
yeah,
I totally agree where it's like, you don't just want to like, make a beautiful video. You want to say something that no one else has said. I kind of had a similar experience with my Adam McKay video. I don't know if you saw that one, but like I I've always thought that Adam McKay is like the coolest fucking director, like given like his own personal voice and given his execution. And I was so confused as to why people like weren't talking about him. And then I heard that Quentin Tarantino interview on Yellow King Film Boy, and it was like the most exciting filmmakers working today. And then that kind of like patted ball off from there. But no, I definitely feel you. Were like the original premises are definitely a major key alert for good videos and shit. Let's talk about some movies, man. So obviously, movie guy, you have a movie channel.
Yeah.
So I from a little birdie told me I heard that you saw a certain monster movie a couple days ago.
Oh yeah, the King of the Monsters, the King Ghidorah versus Godzilla and Rodan and Mothra, kinda.
Yeah. All right. So
I wasn't a fan.
No,
I was hoping it would be good, but I was really disappointed with it.
Me too.
And that sucks.
Yeah.
And honestly, I kind of forgot about it already. That's the sad part. You gonna say?
Yeah. It was just like, okay. So the biggest critique that like people had for 2014 Godzilla was the fact that like the titular the main driving force of the movie is not in the movie whatsoever except for like 13 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And so because they're making this movie where literally it was marketed and endorsed like it was some kind of Rock'em Sock'em Robots final match for monsters, and the movie is called Godzilla King of the Monsters, I'm like, okay, it's going to focus more on like beautiful action and all this shit and not really dabble on things that we don't really care about, like the really shitty human characters. And the movie did exactly the opposite of what I thought they were going to do from the marketing. Like I get it. There are a couple cool shots with like Ghidorah like spreading its wings and stuff, but like in terms of like just like the reason why I'm there, like the frantic, beautiful chaos of a monster fight, I didn't get it. I didn't get it from that.
I was like, honestly, again, like I have very similar feelings on it. Where I rewatched a bit of Pacific Rim just to kind of like cleanse myself, in that there's a beauty to like these big kaiju fights of like the framing. They're slower than the average fight, so you can kind of take in the pose, take in the scale, and that in great kaiju fights, there's like a good back and forth.
Yeah.
Here it kind of just felt like a cluster F of visual stimuli. Like the camera couldn't like be squared off once. It was very shaky, very debris, light, just visual stimulus overload at every turn. And then because of that, nothing really I can't remember the fights in the movie. I can't remember what happened, what the big moves were, because they went by so fast and they were so cluttered by stuff, and they were overly serious. And there was no fun with it. Like that's the biggest sin, is that they weren't fun. And it kind of felt like I watched it and I forgot about it by the time I was home. And that's the worst feeling for me. Like at least a bad movie, I don't know, like one would be like Crimes of Grindelwald, which was for me
horrible.
I couldn't believe how terrible that film was.
Yeah.
But at least I could think about it, go, oh my God, they did this and then this, and wait, what? And that, like, you're having fun poking at it. But this one, there's none of that. There's none of that. Like, it's just, okay. So even, like, discussing it is not that, like, I can't get heated about it.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like, oh, yeah, that happened. No.
Like,
so I like to get heated. I like to get passionate, both good or bad, about something. But the worst is when it inspires nothing from you. And for a movie so expensive and so epic, you know?
Yeah, I it goes back to what I said earlier. It's like they build this movie as Godzilla King of the Monsters. And you think, okay, 2014, didn't have a lot of action, didn't have a lot of Godzilla. So they're totally going to rectify that, and they're totally going to have not only one monster, but a billion monsters. So they have to give them more screen time. And like honestly, I don't think it really had much more monster footage, with the exception of a couple like more elongated scenes, I guess. Like I literally I can't even like really think of the movie, and I have like a weird like borderline mental illness kind of memory. I see a movie once and I remember the entire thing.
I'm the same way. I like some movies, I see them, I can remember the exact chronology of how things go and what leads to what, and I feel the stronger that memory is, the longer it goes, the better the movie is for me.
Yeah, exactly.
But this one, it's that just kind of whiff of a movie.
Yeah, like But God, like the marketing for this movie that was so genius. Like, first of all, using Somewhere Over the Rainbow or Claude Debussy's like overture and stuff, like that was something that you don't see in movies that are of this ilk, I guess, for lack of a better word. And the fact that this movie falls into not only most of the same tropes of those movies, but it's completely unoriginal when it builds itself on being like this groundbreaking thing. It's kind of sad. Like they really kind of wasted a premise that I really think could have been better handled with somebody who, wasn't eager to just pump out a toxic piece of crap.
Yeah. And I think one of the other big complaints I remember feeling is that the sound design was so cluttered that you could never hear the score. And this was the same composer who did the God of War recent score for the 2018 game. And a really talented composer. I was listening to a couple of the tracks later. I was like, these are good tracks. I never heard these. I can't pinpoint where this was in the movie. Yeah. And that, part of like the action scene, so many great action scenes are set to music that drive the scene and like are linked to the progression of it all. I can't remember a single use of music in the movie. It was just on the whole movie, the soundtrack, everything was noise. And it's kind of that lesson of less is more, right? That everything was so overdone that I can't, my brain shut down at a certain point.
Yeah.
Besides that, I saw the same weekend Rocketman.
Oh, really?
Wonderful, excellent movie. I want to see it again at some point. I really love that one.
So I'd love to talk about the compare and contrast between the genius Emmy-winning film Bohemian Rhapsody versus Rocketman. So let me give you my thoughts on Bohemian Rhapsody. It is the most by-the-books, vanilla puff piece biopic you've ever seen in your entire life. The editing is abysmal, and Rami does a good impression, and I say impression very lightly, impression of Freddie Mercury. I don't think he's either invoking or embodying Freddie Mercury in the role, and I don't think he should have gotten Best Actor for that role in particular. But I have no shortage of shit to say about Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody, yeah.
Yeah, really bad. But I've heard that this movie actually is very, very good. Like Taron Egerton apparently is like fantastic in the role, which is like really surprising. Like
one thing I'll say, and you said about Bohemian Rhapsody, is that is a film that follows the biopic musical structure to a T, right? All the way down to the opening scene is him getting ready for a big concert. We flash backwards, and how they're all structured. And when like spoilers for the kind of framing device of Rocketman, which I don't think is that important.
Yep,
you start the movie. Spoilers. This movie begins and like Elton John, he's all dressed up in this like red kind of demon look with like these big horns, these giant wings like attached to his arms, and he's opened the door like he's backlit. You think, okay, he's going on stage to this big show. He walks down the hallway, opens the door, and he enters a Alcoholics Anonymous kind of support group. Red devil suit, and sits down, and the opening scene is him talking about his drug problems and all that, and that becomes a framing device, not this concert. It's about like they go back to that framing device of he's at this kind of meeting and that, and it just off the top it hints that typical structure and then throws it out the window.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
And that's and like from that moment on, I was like, okay, this is good. This is really working. And it was just like it surprised me, and it was really it's hard to say what I liked about it so much. It's just kind of that classic musical. It's more of a musical than a biopic because so many of the songs transform into dance sequences, like a la West Side Story, Mary Poppins, whatever you want your frame of reference of musicals are, where the dance numbers are expressions of the character as opposed to here's how they wrote that song, and like like in Bohemian Rhapsody, where it's just that montage of here's how We Will Rock You, which is not how it happened, but it fits our movie. Where that's the expression of the song. Here, it's more about here's how the song relates to these characters and can reflect or make an interesting statement on where Elton John is in his point in life. So I really loved it. High recommend. Probably my favorite of the summer, behind Endgame, but that's more of just I'm the Marvel guy, so of course I have to put Endgame first.
Yeah, we're both paid by Marvel and Disney, guys.
Where's my check? I should hide it.
I know, dude. Did I send you guys the screenshot of what that guy who commented my video where it's like, "Why don't you suck Marvel's dick a little more in this video, idiot?" And then I commented, "Stars wipes Mickey's splooge from my chin." Dude, what do you mean?
Some people, the conspiracies they peddle. I mean, I love them. I wish I had that much impact. I wish I was that important.
Oh man, but
I wish I was invited to Galaxy's Edge so I could do a positive review of everything Star Wars.
Yeah, that'd be pretty lit. But anyway, like back to Rocket Man. I just think it's pretty funny how the director of Rocket Man like is also the stand-in director for Bohemian Rhapsody, and like this film.
The reason why they did was because he was doing prepping Rocket Man.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, of course. Of course, okay, you have two really, really, really iconic musicians, are giving separate movies, and then the whole thing with Bryan Singer obviously came out, and then they thought that, the guy who's also doing a similar ethos-driven kind of film that Bryan Singer was doing naturally is the best choice, but,
not just that, but in both movies, John Reed is a character, in Rocket Man played by the actor who plays Robb Stark, and Bohemian Rhapsody played by the actor who plays Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. It's funny how there's a bunch of parallels in that regard of very serious overlap both from the stories they're telling and the creative teams behind them. But while Bohemian Rhapsody, granted, a home run in terms of Oscars and box office, you can't deny that. It is, I feel, a very creative whiff, if not a borderline failure, honestly. I don't think it will age particularly well. I think it's pure theatrics. Whereas Rocket Man has a real story, has a real... And honestly, it's because, what's the real difference? Elton John was alive to give it its authenticity.
Yeah.
You get that kind of sense watching Bohemian Rhapsody that it's only the alive Queen members that look really good in this movie. I wonder why.
Yeah, that's a good point, because it's you have to think about, okay, if you were making a musical biopic and the subject of your actual film is the deceased or wants nothing to do with the film, then all you're going to be doing is putting forth a meme of what the public believes their persona is. You're not actually invoking what they actually were. You're just capitalizing on, oh, this is the most popular opinion or popular image of this said, whatever person in music.
And also, again, the other big parallel is that Bohemian Rhapsody just chicken shits out on his homosexuality.
Yeah.
And Rocket Man addresses that full on. And it's everything about that I didn't like about Bohemian Rhapsody, Rocket Man did so well. But also, it's just a fun movie. The best feeling in a movie is when you're watching it and you're not thinking about it anymore. You're not thinking about, oh, this is that, what type of shot that is, whatever, what they're doing. You're just in it. And that's where, I'm going to say rare, but it's special. When it happens, you just embrace it and you go with it. And that's kind of the best feeling, right? When you're just inside the movie.
Yeah, isn't that so funny how an engrossing film like that can be a really, really zany and almost silly representation with musicals and different massive costumes and all that stuff. It's so over the top, but it still engrosses you. I really got to see it because I am a fan of old Elton John. And also, I mean, Taron Egerton, I think he's one of the most talented people in Hollywood right now. He's
for sure.
He's unreal.
Got the stunts. He has the charm. He has the
voice.
The voice, certainly the dance moves. So it's all that. And granted, doing an action movie, doing a musical, not that different when you start to think about it.
Yeah.
Action scenes are basically musicals, but in a different style. Or at least I think they have more in common than people would think. That'd be my big recommendation of the summer. Besides that, I haven't even seen John Wick yet.
Neither have I. I heard it was pretty good though. I saw Aladdin. You seen Aladdin yet?
Oh no, I'm kind of silent protesting that one. I'm not. Well, not silent protest. It's not for me, and I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. Is what I would say.
Yeah, for sure. So let me share my opinion on the Disney live action remakes. I'm not saying that they cannot be good. they can, of course, be good. The Jungle Book is a great example of that. The Jungle Book is one of the most visually striking movies that's been released in the last couple of years, in my opinion. And they actually give it a good amount of gravitas, where it's not like just a straight up retelling of the Jungle Book. It takes the premise and then it bends it a tiny bit where it can actually be suitable for a live action medium. So I'm not one of the guys that's going to say like, okay, there's no adaptation that can be, ascertained from this. Aladdin was, okay, let me just say this. It was not as abysmal as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be just a straight up, screen to silver screen reinterpretation of the movie where Will Smith will be just doing the general, Robin Williams impression and stuff, which would be highly disrespectful. He didn't do that. He actually gave his own kind of performance and twist on the character, which I thought actually was pretty charming.
I heard he basically played it like Blue Hitch was the idea.
Kind of, yeah. Which is like just every Will Smith movie, to be honest with you.
Yeah, fair enough.
Y'all jokers must be crazy with this. But
I just with Aladdin, like I don't know. I saw the clip. The one clip I saw was
Prince Ali.
The Prince Ali one, and that was like
cringe.
Staring into the abyss. And I've heard that's like one of the worst parts of the movie, or at least when they try to do those extravagant animated moments where Robin Williams was just riffing left, right, and center, and like where they just play it straight, like sort of like where they just film. And that's the thing, like where you that's also musical, and Rocket Man, favorite movie this summer, that's also a musical. And that I just watching it, nothing felt alive, nothing felt purposeful. Where the camera was, what the actors were doing, and especially because you had that animated film, you could just directly compare it to. It's like, oh god. It's just having that like kind of looking into the abyss moment. It's like, not gonna see it. I know what I what I like and what I don't like. I don't like this. I'm not gonna see Dark Phoenix tomorrow, and I've heard the reviews for that.
See, honestly, I've heard some pretty disparate things about Dark Phoenix. I've heard that like the typical thing that I was expecting was it's the worst movie ever, and like I hate this shit.
I think the consensus seems to be from the people who've seen it is that it's like third or fourth worst X-Men film, or second worst, depending on how you rank the movies, because there's some bad ones in there. But for me, like with the X-Men, I'm just so much of a fan of those movies.
Me too.
That I'm kind of in that. I have to at least give them not just one last chance or more. I just have to see it, even just to get over with it. Like that was Apocalypse for me. Apocalypse was like, oh
my god, Apocalypse.
Well, I have to go see it, and I'm gonna do that. But there's like a hope. There's a tiny hope that it works rather well.
Yeah.
Because one of our friends, Bailey, really liked it.
Yeah, Bailey. Yeah. Liked a lot.
But I'm not gonna go in with high hope. Not nearly not endgame hopes. Let's just say.
Yeah. which I mean, all right. Quickly on X-Men, then we'll go to Endgame. The X-Men movies, they're so hit or miss for me because you do have some absolute gems and some burners in that fucking franchise. X2 and Days of Future Past are two of the best superhero movies ever made, hands down. Like they're like a model for what an engrossing summer blockbuster is, with superpowers, with a good theme, with good characters. And then you have people like, you have Origins, and then you have Apocalypse.
Origins is, I love that for completely ironic reasons.
Well, of course. It's a meme.
That is so funny.
It's a 2-hour meme.
I know that was brought up again when the Game of Thrones was not doing, because one of the writers of Game of Thrones was one of the writers on that movie. So when Game of Thrones had a controversial last season, they kept like, you also wrote X-Men Origins, and I was like, just going through those clips, like, oh, this movie's so funny. It's so funny.
God, the Deadpool fight at the end.
Oh my god.
It's so bad.
It's lit like a comedy. I don't know. You just put a laugh track in there and it works 100%.
Honestly, it could. Like when the door opens, like, wait, is that you? Turns the head. If you put a laugh track in there from like an 80s sitcom, that would have worked perfectly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my God. But X-Men's weird in that, like, there's good patches and bad patches, but there's no rhythm or reason to the trends.
Yeah.
It's kind of that Star Trek Even Odd thing where the the odd ones are really good and the even ones suck. Although I don't know what so it's like if you get a really good X-Men movie, watch out, the next one's gonna be terrible. That's how it's kind of gone. For every Apocalypse, there's a Deadpool. For every Logan, there's a I guess Dark Phoenix now.
Yeah.
It's weird that way of there's no consistency there. It's kind of sad that it's the end of that era, because actually I personally would have preferred if they kept that separate from the MCU, because the MCU never really dealt with the mutants, since that's a weird thing to introduce, I don't know, 5 or 10 years into an already established franchise.
Yeah. And also, I'm sorry, but it also kind of defeats the purpose of the X-Men, right? Because the X-Men is kind of an allegory for racism or disenfranchisement or people that are, different and shunned. And in this universe, superheroes and people with superpowers are universally pretty much loved, or at least
that's also
tolerated.
a problem with the comics too. The comics also deal with that kind of contradiction all the time. But more important, I just like that the X-Men series, because they had less of a tight grip on continuity, and especially with tone and sort of each film could be completely different than the next. That's where we got the Logans and the Deadpools, which were the lifeblood for the modern films. And it's weird that the spin-offs do really well, but then the big team films do terrible business now.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of same thing with what happened with Justice League, where the Wonder Womans and Aquamans did really well, but then the Justice League movie tanked. So it's weird how that's happening. I loved the Logans and the Deadpools of different, because we're gonna throw everything out. We only gonna use what we want to, and we're just gonna tell our story. And that's something Marvel couldn't do, the MCU. And it kind of sucks now that everything's going to be integrated. Everything's going to be, this.
Yeah. I don't know. And I'm afraid that, people are going to accept, lower and lower quality films just for the sake that they're in the MCU. For example, we're going to get, an Ant-Man and the Wasp type movie for the Fantastic Four. Ant-Man and the Wasp, but it's my fear. I'm not saying it's going to happen.
But it's the fear, okay.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but my fear is they're going to greenlight, less and less effort into these films and the filmmakers just simply because they are in the MCU. I'm not saying they're not going to be enjoyable, but there is a chance that, maybe they're just kind of ancillary, and maybe there's just kind of there, but the big appeal is now you can see the X-Men in the movie with the Avengers. You can see whatever superhero interacting that's not usually supposed to be doing that.
My wish was always that if they ever bring that Fantastic Four into the Marvel Universe, I would prefer it to be a flashback film and set it in the 60s during the space race and make it a retro superhero film. I guess First Class also did that a bit. But, you could have them even age them up to be older in the newer films. But I would love to have a superhero film in the MCU set in the 60s with that crew. And maybe they want to integrate them with newer characters, and that would be cool too. But I would love to see the MCU do something like that, of going back in time, exploring. Because, again, the Fantastic Four are very much birthed of that Kennedy era. And it'd be cool to see that side of filmmaking and side of that culture represented on screen in the MCU. So that's always been my pitch of hey, Marvel, do this.
I totally agree. And actually that'd be pretty cool too, because we haven't really had a period piece Marvel movie. It's all been kind of in this same kind of zone.
The biggest thing was 90s, which barely a period.
We saw Blockbuster twice, and
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, to have a superhero film that's actually centered on a point in history and having that actual history inform parts of the movie that we wouldn't normally see. That would be really interesting. But now that they're just in the MCU, they're not going to want to have to retroactively do things to make the continuity make sense. They just want the continuity to just be as it is, which kind of sucks because that kind of limits creatively what those people can do at a certain point. Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I mean, I guess I'm excited for them to have control of his properties because as much as we can complain, they do make good movies, but
I don't consistent movies that make money, which for every accountant out there is that's why Sony is not touching Spider-Man. They're you make the movies, we make the money.
Yeah.
Or we'll fund the movies, you make them. because no one has that consistency.
Yeah.
And it's kind of amazing when you look at it and go, yeah, there's a few whiffs in there, but you look at that just chain of mostly good, if real to amazing blockbusters, one after the other, each one making more money than the last one.
Yeah.
I don't know any other franchise or movie series or anyone or even director who has something like that. It's kind of amazing to watch. It feels almost surreal at times, just how far that train's gone, and how monolithic the frickin' MCU gets, all-consuming reach of entertainment.
Yeah, I totally agree, and like I said, I mean, like. Okay, I won't be coy. I hate Ant-Man and the Wasp like more than anything. Like I really hate it. But like the thing is, like I don't want the first time that I see that, like, you know, a team that I love. I love Fantastic Four. I love the X-Men. I do not want a film of that same caliber of quality to exist for them as their first bout in the MCU. I want like their movies to be different. Like the Fantastic Four obviously should not take itself too seriously. That's the whole point. It's a very zany and irreverent kind of thing.
They will not pull another Josh Trank. That would be amazing if they did that.
Fan Four Stick is such an interesting movie, man. Like reading about the behind the scenes drama with that shit is just fascinating.
You just keep reading and reading. Oh my god, yeah.
Like all the tweets, it's like I used to have a good version of this movie, then they fucking ruined it. You'll never see it.
I remember reading that live. Like I remember seeing that as it happened before it was deleted and going, oh my god, it was like, you know, it was too funny. Because I remember even then, like, the trailers weren't that good for the movie, but the tracking was still big. And I remember a lot of people like, no, this movie's gonna be good. People, it's got a good director, all that stuff. And I remember thinking, I don't think so. And then the floodgates opened and the tracking went like nosedived in a week. And I remember that happened, going, oh my god, it opened to like half of what they expected it to, and then it dropped off even faster than they could have imagined. So that was one of those moments of like, I think it's the only no, that's not true. Hellboy happened. But I think it's the second or only major superhero film that bombed in the last 10 years. Which even then, only one bomb is actually kind of amazing. Thinking about how many of them are there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like even Justice League, like we talked about, like it didn't do well. It still made money.
Yeah, it made its money back. Yeah, but
not back, but it made money.
Well, how much did it make?
630 million, I want to say.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, but that's on like a 300 million budget, so that's the math is the movie financing is odd, and so it didn't quite make a profit in theaters.
Yeah, like I guess I'm excited for the you know the properties being the MCU, but I don't know. I'm just waiting to see what happens with that.
Yeah, that's actually the thing of like there hasn't been a big announcement. I believe I want to say in September or August, the MCU, like Kevin Feige will probably come out and announce all the Phase 4 movies. Because as of right now, we don't know what they are. We just know Spider-Man comes out in July, and that's it. We're like, I guess there's an Eternals movie, one with Angelina Jolie, and then Black Widow spinoff, and then after that, it's kind of a mystery. So I think we're going to see in the next couple months a big announcement of, okay, what do the next 4 years of the MCU look like?
Yeah, exactly.
And that will be both exciting and almost overwhelming too. Of like, all right, that's the future.
So much movie.
So much movie.
Just consume.
Just
movie. but so I want to ask you this. So what do you think about this whole trend that Marvel's doing where it's like after like their big either like bookend for like a chapter or like their, you know, obviously their big finale with Endgame. What do you think about having Spider-Man follow that up? Like the most crowded thing we can think about this is Age of Ultron happening in 2015, Ant-Man happening 3 months later, yeah.
I think it's just more scheduling, honestly, that idea of like the big Marvel film always has to come early in the summer, but then the last half of the summer is really lucrative. You get really big money days there. And not just that, because school's out, so you get those really good weekday numbers. So I think it's mostly just scheduling. I think they would have probably put Ant-Man probably closer to like October if they just wanted to space it out evenly. But really, it's more just pure money in terms of how the summers are scheduled. But for Spider-Man, I think it's a really cool idea in that you can have the direct follow of Endgame followed up immediately in this other film. So it's almost like the denouement of Endgame. You have Peter Parker mourning Iron Man, and I think the whole conflict of that movie is about Iron Man's gone and Spider-Man presumably wants to fill his place, right? And that you can go on into the themes and ideas of Endgame with this direct sequel that's kind of a side dish that you don't need to see to enjoy Endgame, but is there if you want to. So I think that's actually kind of cool idea. But, wait and see how the movie is.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I like MCU Spider-Man. I'm not crazy about him. The Raimi Spider-Man's like my thing. Like, I love Raimi Spider-Man. But, like, the thing is, like, I'm not a huge fan of the fact that they haven't brought up Uncle Ben at least even one time. And, like, instead of, like, having Spider-Man embody the characteristics of, like, great power, great responsibility, it's all about looking up to Iron Man, which I get it. It works really, really well for this arc they're presenting for him, but it's not really gripping me as tight as I would like it to, I guess. That makes any sense?
I guess for me, it's like, again, it's like the Spider-Man fan versus the MCU fan. I think kind of looking objectively at the MCU, one of the things they've done really, really well is being kind of using that trail mix approach to the comics, and that they pick and choose what works best for their movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because they're not religious in terms of how they follow the comics, I think the movies have benefited vastly from that. And even for this one, it's like, we don't need Uncle Ben that one because the audience is just so done with it. We had it 2 times. And maybe they should have done Miles Morales, so they wanted to avoid doing Uncle Ben, but
yeah,
that's a whole other discussion. But I think using Iron Man as the Uncle Ben surrogate for this franchise is actually kind of a genius idea, in that the comic fan in me doesn't like that, but I'm willing to disconnect and go, the movies are the movies, and they're kind of making it up as they go along, and they're finding that rhythm because they're not sticking to the obvious comic stuff. And I think that makes the movie so much better, and that shows in subtle ways, like for instance with Thanos, how they completely ditched the in love with death.
Oh yeah, it's metaphorical as opposed to explicit. Yeah,
and I think that's I think that would honestly be their biggest strength, is how they are rather, again, they only take what they want from the comics, and I think it's really cool, is that they're very loose adaptations. And that's kind of, there's this weird dichotomy where the movies do really well, but the comics are not selling at all, really, in modern times, and that's because they have completely different identities, and the characters in the movies are separate from the characters in the comics, even if they share key traits.
Yeah, it's definitely true, and like I said, like I understand why they're doing it for the movie, like, or the MCU at large, like having Spider-Man be kind of the protege to Iron Man. Totally get it, and it makes perfect sense, and it works really well. I just am like, for a couple characters, I'm kind of a purist, but I get it. That's me being a spoiled brat. Yeah. Like, I'm a purist with Batman, I'm a purist with Spider-Man, I'm a purist with even Captain America to a certain extent. But yeah, like I can totally get past it because, like, I mean, I do like the movies. Like, it's not like I don't. But yeah, I mean, you can't really hate the Marvel movies, to be honest with you, unless you have a vitriolic take on superhero movies. Like, there's so much goddamn fun.
Or you just want to be contrarian.
Exactly.
I think they're pretty harmless.
Release the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, no, that one. Or release the, I don't know, the Bryan Singer cut, or the X-Men series.
Oh my god.
They're kind, I mean, not just hard to hate. I find them, and I remember having this feeling of like, there's always going to be the MCU is overrated or it doesn't deserve, right? It's like success. But then there was that run from 2017 to 2018 of like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 up to Infinity War. And that was 5 films in 1 year, and all of them were pretty great.
Yeah. Ragnarok, Black Panther.
Yeah. Homecoming.
Yeah.
And then Infinity. And it's that was one of those runs of like, again, they all did phenomenal business. They all were crowd pleasing and interesting, different from each other. And it's like, please, can we put these ideas to rest that Marvel just makes bland movies? All 5 of them are better than most studios outputs in a year, right?
Yeah.
They're creative, they're fun, and even I have problems with a lot of them, but they're worth it despite the flaws, or even sometimes because of them. And just how creative they can be, and the talent they have on display, and the actors who commit to it, and all that stuff. And really, like my biggest problems usually come down to a lack of real production, or sort of like, a weak green screen effect here or there, or just a rushed production timeline. Like, for instance, Black Panther had a completely rushed third act, and so they were shooting the sequences in the finale in October, and the visual effects companies were getting them in December to be released in February.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's why the effects in the final showdown look so terrible, is because they didn't have enough time. So like, that's my biggest problem with them, is that they aren't as polished as they could be, but the core character story fundamentals are there.
Yeah,
and they're great. And it goes to show the audience is willing to forgive that if the core is there, if the core is solid.
Yeah, not like a Justice League where DC can't even remove a fucking mustache.
I mean, in my head canon, he was stung by a bee and he was allergic to it, and it's stuck, you know.
You know what's so funny? Like, Marvel has de-aged two characters completely to the point where you believe they're younger. Robert Downey Jr. and Samuel L. Jackson. And that just shows that Marvel actually gives a fuck about those kind of things, because DC couldn't remove a mustache. And
I think it's harder than it sounds, because with the Marvel thing, what they do is like it's a lot of getting rid of wrinkles. And,
well, of course, yeah. They're mapping electrodes in people's faces.
The mouth is the hardest thing to animate, is what I've heard from visual effects aspect. That the mouth is so intricate and has so much delicate movement, it's hard to replicate. And that was a time thing. Again, they shot those scenes, I want to say, in July. All this comes down to time.
Yeah.
Every bad visual effects shot in a big movie is most likely a redone shot, and that is like what amazes me about like Rogue One, which entirely reshot that third act, and that third act looks amazing.
Yeah, it does.
Not a bad visual effects shot in that whole movie.
Yeah.
So like when that happens and the visual effects look amazing, that really blows my mind.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
I guess Tarkin didn't look the best in that movie. So almost everything else looked amazing.
No, but the point I was just trying to make with DC is like, so the fact that the actors didn't even care to like shave their facial hair for this or lose the appropriate weight. Like, for example,
did you know the story behind that?
Mission Impossible, right?
Yeah, well, not just that, but Paramount, like the directors of Mission Impossible were like Christopher McQuarrie, Tom Cruise. They were all willing to say, we'll delay this production for him to shave his mustache.
Yeah,
he'll grow it back, and we'll just do his.
And Henry was like, "Nah."
No, Henry was up for it too, but the producers at Paramount were such dicks that they're like, you know what? No. It was almost out of spite. It was almost like, no, we're gonna keep our guy. We're gonna force you to to spend however many millions of dollars it was. I want to say like 10 million just to do that frickin' mustache removal, and it wasn't even that good.
Yeah.
And that's it's one of those things of like, movies are weird, of just the production behind them, the amount of moving obstacles and parts and things that have to go right to make a good movie is so crazy.
Yeah.
That when they come out good, it's kind of a mini miracle.
Yeah.
And yeah, the amount of stuff that can go wrong is so insanely high. You think you're going well, and then all of a sudden your main character looks like they were stung by a bee because of CGI mustaches.
Yeah, like it was just weird because, like, if you think about it in terms of monetary investment, right? What do you think is going to cost more money and is going to take more effort? Using a really good prosthetic or makeup to make a mustache on the person, or CG an entire part of their face off of their face? Like, it's like.
But again, the assumption is that the companies want to play fair, and the Paramount did not. And now it's one of those. It's funny, but it's also really scummy.
It is scummy, yeah, I will say. Yeah. Oh man.
I'm trying to think, like, what are one of those? Have you seen what are the most recent movie? Again, I think Crimes of Grindelwald was that for me. Where watching it, there were certain moments where I was like, I couldn't believe this made it into a big budget movie. The big one was that they referenced Professor McGonagall as a teacher in this Hogwarts school in 1922, I believe is the exact date.
Yeah.
But her character wasn't born until 1935, and she didn't start teaching until well into the 50s in the timeline of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So that was like I remember having that like when I saw that, I was like, wait, just a simple timeline check. Go, that can't. They didn't just fuck up their timeline for a reference, did they? They did. And so, like, what I'm trying to think of, like, what are the all-time like blunders to that capacity of like, you think there would be someone to figure this out? I guess like the Starbucks coffee most recently, and
oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was great. That one is actually more forgiving.
Yeah. It's just
one
funny.
like,
yeah,
yeah. But like stuff like this happens. It's just because there's so much to think about.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. Well, I mean, it's been about an hour, so I don't want to take too much of your time.
Okay.
But last thing here, most anticipated of 2019. What do you got?
Ooh, I know for the summer it's definitely Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Absolutely, that's mine too. I can't wait for that movie.
It's kind of a obvious dude response of the Tarantino movie. I guess you don't really grow out of that. But I'm trying to think of. Honestly, I would actually say I'm most interested. Don't think it's gonna be the best, but I'm most interested in Rise of Skywalker and just how they do that. I'm most interested to see that, like, because I'm mixed on Force Awakens, loved Last Jedi, and I'm going into this one not knowing what the heck is gonna happen, and that's exciting to me. That I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know if it's gonna be good or great or bad, and it's kind of I'm gonna see what happens. And so I think that would be mine, of just as the fan community, to see how Lucasfilm can recover from the Solo debacle and all that stuff.
Yeah.
If Disney, I'm sure they will. Like, Star Wars is such a big...
Yeah, for sure.
Fuck it.
See,
that would be mine.
That's so interesting, though, because you have a pretty diametrically opposed opinion to The Last Jedi than a lot of people. Like, people usually universally like say, like, oh, yeah, The Force Awakens is a lot of fun. It's not perfect, but it's fine. And people are, like, either love it or hate it in The Last Jedi. So, like...
Well, that's it. I think The Last Jedi is a very polarizing movie. Like, if you like it, you really like it. If you don't like it, you really don't like it. And that's part of the movie. That part of, like, is kind of a... It creates those divisions.
Yeah.
Like, Marvel, the divisions are pretty artificial.
Well, see, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that, because, like, I mean, I'm somebody who's very, very middle of the motor in Last Jedi, where it's like there are parts of it that I really don't like, but there are parts that I love. Like, I mean, we talk about this we have like a few minutes left. Like, so let me be clear. I do not think it's the worst movie ever by any means. Like, and
you don't think it killed cinema? I'm surprised.
The fact that people are saying this is SJW propaganda, fluoride eating soy boys made this movie.
Once they go into that language, you know to.
I know. Like, it's just like they're just trying to have white genocide in this. I'm like, shut the fuck up. But like, anyway, like, I do not think it's the worst movie by any means that I've ever seen. Like, and there are things, like I said, I love in this movie. So number one, the throne room lightsaber sequence is one of the best scenes in terms of sequencing in Star Wars, hands down. The way it's shot, the way it actually plays out is beautiful. Number two, even though I have a different problem with it, the light speed scene, I think that even though there is I've like, not in terms of like the physics, which I don't judge. I'm a scientist. I don't judge it based on physics. That's a fucking space opera where you see explosions in space and you hear sound in space. I don't judge it on that. I think the sheer cinematic beauty of that one instant is actually kind of sublime and jaw dropping. Like, it's absolutely beautiful.
I saw it 3 times in theaters. Every time it got an audible, whoa.
Like, whoa. And like, it's one of the sublime parts where it like sits in your stomach. You're like, and it's an instant. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And number 3, like, people are always like bad of shape. Like, Mark Hamill hates the character, and like, Luke would never do this. And I look at it in terms of character. If you see everybody you know and love turn on you or die or try to kill you or try or abandon you, you're probably going to be pretty jaded. So that makes sense why he would be jaded. But the other thing is, even if it's maybe not jaded to the point where like he wants to die and like he came here to die and stuff. But the other thing is, look, Rian Johnson didn't make Luke Skywalker go 60,000 light years away with no intention of being found. And the only character that could have possibly found him was turned off for the entire movie. That was JJ. JJ set that up with no real way to actually round that about. And like, you can't really blame Rian Johnson.
That's kind of the difference of their approaches of JJ kind of setting things up on the fly and just go. Where Ryan Johnson is more, let's take a step back and let's actually confront these ideas that we've actually set up.
Like, why he's here? Why is he on this planet with no intention of being found? Of course he doesn't want to be found. So, like, I hate that people like, shit on Ryan Johnson for that, because Ryan Johnson is an absurdly talented director. Like, he really
and honestly,
is.
I find, like, I don't even think I want him to return to Star Wars. I want to see him do his other stuff, because I think he could just become a great, like, director, like the Coen Brothers kind of filmmaker of just doing these weird, quirky films, and I think that's maybe his best groove.
Yeah.
Or I'd love to see him return to TV. But like my honest thoughts on Last Jedi, because it is so divisive, is that I think it's a 2.5-hour movie. I think 90 minutes of it are the best Star Wars movie that's ever been. I think 60 minutes of it are really sloppy, and they kind of coexist. And it's hard to differentiate one from the other like that, because you can't just separate those into two separate. It's one movie, right?
Yeah.
And if I only got the 90 minutes of perfection, which they are perfection, it would be my favorite Star Wars movie. But it's not. It's kind of sloppy in parts. The logic in a certain couple areas is really wonky. The slow speed chase is not the most compelling central premise of a movie.
Yeah, that was my big
But
thing.
everything around that is so rich and so, like, it says so much interesting stuff. Whereas some of these movies is just pure action, whereas this is action to a larger purpose, and that's what I respond to a lot. Whereas Force Awakens, like, a lot of the scenes is like the Rathtar scenes. What is the Rathtar scene about? Like, that is pure just a fun gag that some come up with. Whereas Last Jedi, every action scene has a deeper thematic purpose and is striving to a deeper character kind of idea or flaw. And it's just a movie that hits me that way, and not many movies hit me that way. And that's kind of like, those are my favorite movies. It's a very contemplative movie. It's very It's very I don't know, what are the verbs? What are the adjectives?
Thought-provoking.
Yeah, well, not just thought-provoking, but like it's about something. And that's, at the end of the day, I want the movie to have a dialogue about something, actually bring up ideas.
Yeah, for sure.
And then it gets labeled as SJW propaganda for those ideas. Okay.
Well, those people are trying to hump a doorknob. They're so stupid, so it's fine. But like,
oh, I know.
But I do have a couple like kind of glaring flaws of the movie. So like,
I have a couple glaring flaws.
Yeah. So like in terms of like relating it back to this new trilogy, right? So number one is The Force Awakens. The entire plot point of basically the latter half of the movie is the Star Killer base. It's like, it's supposed to be like the Death Star on steroids, but we saw it destroy the entire Federation of the Republic. We saw it like, lay waste to shit. They destroy it at the end. And in The Last Jedi, the First Order, nothing happened to them. Like, it's like they're just as powerful. It doesn't seem like there's any consequences for what happened to them. And like they hint the fact that this is like, the Death Star has precedence over all 3 original Star Wars movies, and like you can, and like this is even bigger than this is like a space station. It's not even a fucking weapon. It's like they have trees and shit on there, and there's like most of their troops are there. If that got destroyed, reasonably, a huge, massive fighting force and empire like that would feel reprehension or some kind of consequence of that thing being destroyed. And I just didn't like how, like, the only way it was brought up was during Poe Dameron, like, chirping General Hux and, like, saying, like, the mom is calling him or whatever. It kind of annoyed me that, like, it wasn't consequential.
I think that's more about Force Awakens not really setting up the real...
Exactly.
Tangible sense of what state we're in, whereas that's important. And I guess how I rationalized it, what I thought the movie was saying was that even though the First Order took a hit, the rebels and the rebels, the resistance and whatever system they set up, I can't even remember what it was called. That hit was so much bigger that there's this giant power vacuum in the galaxy, and they have enough troops like go, we need to seize it now, and that no one has real control. But in order to kind of be dominant, they have to first get rid of the resistance. Second step is establish global domination, which they don't have. They have a few posts here and there, and they have this big giant fleet, right? And I think that's the conflict is not, they're the new empire, but more they become the new empire because they become detested or whatever that word, whatever the phrase is. Like, no one's fighting against them because they've made such a bold impact, right? So that's like, again, the whole idea is that Last Jedi or Force Awakens created this giant power vacuum, and now it's like survive or consume it, right?
I mean, sure, like that does make sense, but like, yeah, but also, I mean, like, okay, but like, if we compare that to like just the sheer magnitude of the weight that's felt after a Death Star is destroyed, the fact that this is like, this legitimately is like, this either was the big base that they were like, they were storing all their weapons and like they were storing all the people at, or it wasn't, and they, yeah, exactly. But even so, even if I grant you your point, like, I feel like if there was even 3 lines of like, the state in which, like, is existing in the galaxy right now, because this massive thing is now destroyed and no one really has dominance over another person anymore. If they'd referenced that even ancillarily, I would have actually really, really liked it. But like, yeah. Yeah.
And honestly, I think the bigger problem is that moment in Force Awakens happens where they destroy like the 5 planets, whatever, and it has no impact.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest criticism for the newer films, is that moments like that hold no weight.
Yeah.
And those moments are really key.
Yeah, exactly. And, I've talked about The Last Jedi a bunch of my channel, so I won't bore the viewers who are going to watch this. But yeah, man, dude, this is awesome. I'm glad we got to do this finally. But, good conversational guy. I'm a big fan of yours, and definitely do this again sometime if you're down.
Yeah, great talking. Yeah.
All right, so tell people who are going to watch in the future where to find you and your, sign and all that.
Oh, yeah. So you can watch me on Films and Stuff here on YouTube. You also follow me on Twitter at JBURD22. And I just finished up, or kind of mostly wrapped up, my series on the Marvel Studios retrospective. Go give that a watch. It's a really great series. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
All right, cool, man. Well, this has been Jonathan Films and Stuff, Lone Chemist Podcast, number 34. Peace.